Sunday Night Safran. Religion, politics, culture, and lisping.
Shalom, Father Bob.
Okay, what do you got balloons?
I've got balloons for a reason, but I'll explain it after we tell who.
Yeah, but it's just that I thought you were going to...
Tonight,
blow them up.
Because I wanted to find out about this whole Cyprus thing, because Alexander Downer, former foreign minister, he's going over to sort it out in Cyprus. I didn't know what was going on. So we have Alexander Downer actually telling us what's going on. He's going to come on. We have Henry Luiz Gomez, who's going to counterpoint the pro-Fidel woman from last week, because he's a Miami Cuban.
Gee.
So you've got to be careful with the podcast. You can't just get away with things, because some Miami Cuban will hear your podcast.
Well, they said they were glad that they heard us.
So
taking sides.
So we'll have a Miami Cuban coming in. We're going to talk to Irene Graham about internet censorship, because there's new developments with new governments.
Yes.
And she's an expert in that. And we have Islamic hip-hop posse, the Brotherhood, doing Religious Song of the Week. Now, can you just cover for me why...
Yeah, I can just cover for you.
Open the balloon. So
I can just cover for you while you're opening the balloons. I don't know what you got balloons here for, but anyway. They're here, ladies and gentlemen. There are about 6 coloured balloons with strings attached, and they're all hanging from the ceilings of this studio.
Oh, here we go.
Very, very threateningly.
Okay, so this is
what are you going to let out of there? If that's helium, you're going to be under the influence.
No, but this is what... Because, as you know...
What?
Earlier today, we recorded the Alexander Downer interview, right?
Yeah.
So, I was thinking... the problem with pre-recording things is you start eating up in your head everything you got wrong. Yeah. And so I wanted to make a few changes, or at least to give a commentary, like a director's commentary, but I thought our voices would sound the same. So just so we play the Alexander Downer interview, and then I interrupted and go, oh, no, what I really meant to say was that the listener's not going to know that that's me now and not me in the interview. Whilst if I do this is like this is like the radio equivalent of the director's commentary on the DVD. Look. That was wrong. What I really wanted to... And so the audience will know when...
What happened then?
Yeah, but the audience will know. If they hear my voice like this, they'll know it's the pre-recorded Alexander Downer interview.
Yeah.
Whilst if they hear my voice like this... I really think I should have gone harder on Alexander then. They'll know it's the director's commentary that's happening now. So you take a balloon too.
What am I in the middle? This is.
You take a balloon too, and all
I'm not going to inhale illegal substances on the national broadcaster. This is a setup.
I reckon this is like
the federal police.
This is like an innovative, because the kiddies love the director's commentaries on the DVDs, and it's never been worked out how do you do that on radio. This could be, if this works out...
This could be a first, couldn't
I'm sure Zan Rowe will pick up on it.
Yeah.
And Marie Hardy in the morning, and then it will spread all over. No, you've got to really...
That's what you sounded like, Donald Duck.
I sounded like a real helium sucker.
You sounded like Alexander Downer himself.
Do you want to...
Explain to me. I mean, it's no good bringing an old man into the studio and doing scientific experiments in front of my eyeballs.
What, you don't understand it?
What are you getting out of that balloon?
It's helium.
And that changes your voice.
Yeah.
And you knew
that's
that.
Not new.
I don't know that.
It's not like there was Facebook and MySpace and then someone came up with helium makes your voice squeaky.
Excuse me, we never went around the place playing kiddies' games breathing in helium from balloons.
Well,
we couldn't even afford helium.
I've known about it my whole life. I don't know when it was invented.
You knew from the tiniest age that you were dying to get your hands on a helium-filled balloon.
I'm telling you, helium's not some new thing.
Unbelievable.
It's not some new thing. It's not like an iPod.
Well, why have we got 6 balloons hanging around the roof? Is this going to go on all day?
No, so you can take one.
Well, you think the hip-hop Islamics are going to come in, and before they start singing, they're going to have a sniff of... It'll be like...
We're not chroming.
Anyway, that'll be taken as a lovely gesture from the Islamics. Now, we turned their hip-hoppers into chipmunks.
Well, we'll talk more after this. We'll go, actually, dear listeners, we'll go straight to the Downer interview after the song. So you'll know if it's me if I make this sound.
Make that sound again.
I think we left Alexander Downer off the hook then.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I've wanted to talk to you for a couple of years for a number of reasons. One reason is that I occasionally go to this synagogue around the corner from my place called Yeshiva Synagogue, and there's this guy there.
Stop that.
Who has he's like a bit soft in the head, and he's got like a little snuff box, and he runs around and gets everyone to sniff from the snuff box. Anyway, so we're all just used to it. But 2 elections ago, when you were campaigning, you came to Yeshiva Synagogue, and that guy came running up to you and made you sniff from the snuff box, and you thought it was like some Jewish ritualistic thing that you have to do to not be offensive to Jews or whatever. And you were there with the most solemn face, and you sniffed it very respectfully. And I've always wanted to tell you that guy's just nuts, and it had nothing to do with Judaism.
No, I've been to many synagogues over the years. I've never come across that before or since.
OK, now that's out of the way. Now, when I first heard that you were becoming UN Special Envoy to Cyprus, I was thinking, now here's another thing we all have to learn about, another conflict that we just don't know about. Can you give, like, the blurb of who's arguing with who in Cyprus?
Yeah, I want to be very careful what I say about this, but basically it's split between the Greek and the Turkish communities, and the split, of course, is quite historic, but in more recent times goes back to the events of 1974, and so there are...
And what are those events?
Well, there was an attempted coup d'etat and the overthrow of the government in Cyprus, and... Turkish troops came in, and there was the island has been divided ever since. So this gets to the problem of it being a divided island and how to reunify it, and reunify it in a way that both the Greek and the Turkish communities feel comfortable. So it's no easy challenge. Those events I very roughly described go back to 1974, so that's a fair few years ago.
And do both sides want reunification, or are there like one or either of the side just want the whole island to themselves, or do one or either of the side just want to split the island in two?
Well, no doubt. I can't tell you what the polls show. I've never been to Cyprus. I haven't been there yet. I'm hoping to go in the next week or so. But the leadership of the communities is now very much in favour of reunifying the island. There's no doubt about that. But of course, the issue is on what terms they would reunify. That's the problem. There was an attempt a few years ago, 4 years ago, by the United Nations to produce a plan to reunify Cyprus, a pretty complicated plan, and it was put to a referendum in both the Turkish and the Greek areas, and it was defeated by the Greek Cypriots. Very few of them supported it, and so nothing much has happened since then. So this is a new effort with new leadership of both the Greek and Turkish communities to try to achieve the so far elusive peace settlement.
I should have interrupted him by now, don't you reckon? He's like just going on.
Mr. says we have to be very sensitive. Because I know a lot.
Yes, you certainly wouldn't want to get into picking sides.
Would I? Especially a Roman Catholic priest, for God's sake. But and especially also since I understand now, which I didn't 30 years ago, that in fact the Cypriot Orthodox Church is in fact what's the term they use in the trade is autocephalous, meaning it doesn't have to take its cap off to Constantinople as the Patriarchate.
What are you talking about, Bob? No one knows what you're
Orthodoxy.
talking about.
Right.
They're an independent, ancient, independent Orthodox group.
Do you want Bob to provide you with advice before you
Sounds
go
as though
over?
he could. I'm certainly not familiar with the status of the Orthodox Church.
It's fascinating because, in fact, that was so much of their recent history. The leader of their community was, in fact, Archbishop Makarios.
Yeah,
and that's we say nothing more. Because
he was the leader, wasn't he? Immediately after independence,
yes,
and
yes,
a well-known figure around the Commonwealth,
yes,
because of course Cyprus is a member of the Commonwealth.
Hey, another group that's going to be annoying you now in your new role is the Jehovah's Witnesses. Did you know that? Because
no, I wasn't familiar with that.
Because there's apparently heaps of them in jail in Cyprus because they refuse to join the army, and you have to join the army or some version of that.
Oh, OK, I've had no representations, to the best of my knowledge, from Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well,
I have from the Greek and Turkish communities in Australia. Well, they've sent me very warm and helpful and positive messages, but I haven't had any Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, if they
to the
start
best of
knocking
my
on the
knowledge.
door, don't assume it's like a conversion type thing. It might just be to kind of give you some tips on Cyprus.
Yes. Well, thank you for the warning. I'll prepare for it. I'll make sure I familiarise myself with the issue.
Now, huge things happened under your watch when you were Foreign Minister, including the invasion of Iraq. Now, I've always wondered, like, when you see, like, the protests and, like, someone's, like, really fiery and, like, throwing themselves on your bonnet of your car and saying you're a murderer and stuff, does that, like, hurt your feelings, or are you just, oh, who's this lunatic?
It depends on the circumstances and the context, really. It's hard to answer that question. I mean, in the main, it's just part of the political process, and you wouldn't want to become a political leader if you couldn't cope with the fact there'd be people who disagree with you. Sometimes they very sincerely disagree with you. Sometimes they disagree with you for sort of partisan reasons. I don't support your team, so everything you say and do, I hate. There's a bit of that, of course, in politics.
But if I get, like, an email and someone's, like, saying nasty things about me, I just get really hurt.
Oh, no, you must get them the whole time, though. No,
He loves to get hurt, Alexander.
No
he loves to
reflection
get
on
hurt.
it. Yeah.
He enjoys it.
People, I'm not sure who sends these emails, but there must be because you don't seem to meet them in the street, but there must be a coterie of people out there who send hate emails.
Hang on, weren't there like 100,000 people in the street protesting the war in
I
Iraq?
was talking about the emails.
Yes.
Emails. You mean in relation to Iraq?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure what then.
But didn't that, like, did you, like, just have doubts or whatever? Like, I change my mind all the time on things because issues are really emotional, and then you just have to hear one really emotional thing from one side. So did you
Well,
ever...
I could, I suppose I could understand the point they were making, but for me, I thought getting rid of Saddam Hussein would be a good thing to do. The protests would have been in early 2003, I think, before the war broke out. But no, I thought it was the right thing to do, and I think Australia played the Australians who were involved there played a useful role. Of course, we weren't main players. And of course, the point is, whatever we had done in this country, the Americans still would have invaded Iraq. We wouldn't have been able to change that particular event taking place.
And I know Gareth Evans, his daughter, like, was a troublemaker who said she didn't agree with his policies. Do you ever have, like, fights with your family or with close friends over policy decisions?
No, fights. Within my family, they pretty much gone along over the years with the things I've done, certainly with the policies I've pursued. So I haven't really had too much of a problem within my own family. Well, there's I wouldn't say it was a problem, but in 1999, during the Republican referendum, some of my family favoured the Republic and some of them favoured the present system. So we didn't particularly talk about it much, but that was a difference we had within our family. But no, mainly not. With friends, some of my friends, yeah, sure. I mean, some of them.
Have you lost friends? Because I think with the Iraq thing,
no,
now that it's kind of like petered out a bit, where it's less emotional now. And but at the actual moment when Australia was either going to go to war or not go to war, like, people were just furious and so heated. Did you not have, like, I don't know, your wife's friends or anyone's or your kids, like, just...
Well, some of them were opposed. There's no doubt about not within my family, but some of my friends supported the decision. Some of them opposed it. No, they didn't sort of reduce that to the personal. Didn't talk about it an enormous amount with them, but it did a bit. They asked me a lot of questions about it, particularly those who were opposed, but I guess they wouldn't be my friends if they were rude the whole time.
No.
Sort of outraged at everything I did. I mean, they understood why I took the view that I took, and I understood why they took the view they took. Actually, it's one of the differences between being a child and when you grow up. I mean, when you grow up, you accept that people have different points of view, and you're able to talk to each other about it in a civilised way, not yell at each
Do you
other.
think I went hard enough on him about Iraq?
Timor
Let him off
became
the hook.
independent. Can you tell me if this theory's got any water or not? Which is that Paul Keating was so pro-Indonesia and the Indonesian government that unless John Howard would have won the election, wouldn't have necessarily have rolled out that, you know, Habibie would have put up a referendum which would have led to the Timorese wanting independence, which would have led to Timor becoming independent. Is that a stupid theory?
Well, we'll never know, of course, the truth of that, because the truth could never have been put to the test. But I think it's unlikely that what happened would have happened in 1998-99. The turning point on the East Timor... Well, there were two turning points.
So just to clarify, you're saying that it is possible that it's only because the Liberals came into power that Timor got to be free, at least back then?
The Liberals came into power, I wouldn't use that phrase. I would say because of what John Howard and I did in late 1998 and the early part of 1999. But you don't know what would have happened if any, you know, the Greens or the Democrats or Labor had been in power. You simply just don't know what would have happened. There would have been a series of events that would have taken place which would have been different. But what actually happened was we did a survey during 1998 of Timorese opinion about Timorese opinion on the proposal that the Indonesians were then putting to give East Timor wide-ranging autonomy. And we wanted to assess whether this plan of the Indonesians was likely to work. And the feedback we got was that it wouldn't work. So we then sent a letter in John Howard's name. He signed a letter to President Habibie pointing this out and putting forward the suggestion that whilst East Timor remained part of Indonesia for the time being, at some point in the future there should be an act of choice, a referendum, if you like. And the rest is history. President Habibie's view was, well, why should we have a referendum after several years? Let's have it right away. He was very upset about the change in Australian government policy, but nevertheless, as a result of that, he changed Indonesia's policy. Now, what if those things happened if somebody else had been in power other than John Howard and me? Who knows? I don't know what they would have done in the same circumstance.
Do you know a lot about the Uyghurs?
No.
You know, in the Xinjiang region of China, I think it's also pronounced Uyghurs.
Mm-hmm.
So, surely
I don't know.
But you're foreign. I guess this is the wider. If you're foreign minister, are you just expected to know everything about every conflict everywhere?
I know an awful lot about most conflicts, but I don't know everything. No, well, if you know, you don't. There inevitably be things you don't come across, I suppose.
Nailed him on the Uyghur issue.
On the side of the Uyghurs in this conflict, it's that one. It's a bit like Tibet, but in a different part of China, another little ethnic group.
Okay.
And
are they being oppressed, though, do you feel?
Yes. Or at least they say they are. They're like...
Are they not being recognised?
Yeah, no,
they're not being recognised?
Yeah, they want it to become East Turkestan.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I was hoping you'd give us
complete
guidance.
Independence?
Yes, some of them yes, some of them no.
I doubt that it would be a widely held view. It might not be...
autonomy would do, probably.
Autonomy, yeah, they might be,
me and Bob
be more widely supported.
Me and Bob are big militants, so we want total independence.
Well, interestingly enough, when you talk about Tibet... people often overlook this, but even the Dalai Lama isn't arguing for Tibet to become an independent country. He's just saying that its autonomy needs to be more appropriately recognised.
Cuba. Tell us which side we should be on in Cuba. We had a woman last week on, and she told us we had to be on Fidel Castro's side, and we're idiots if we weren't.
Alexander will know the woman, Joan Coxedge.
Ah, yes, I know who she is, yeah. Yes. Right.
So whose side should we go on in that?
I think you should be, as you've been sort of implying in a lot of your questions through this interview, you'd be on the side of human rights and the ordinary people of the country. And I think the honest truth of Cuba is that there's a case you can make. For example, I didn't hear her interview, but she probably said this: they have a very good health service and good doctors. That's a bit of a cliche.
They export them around the world.
But yes, they do. But let's just think about if you didn't like the government very much in Cuba and you decided to demonstrate, like the 100,000 people you referred to who demonstrated in 2003, you'd be in the slammer. And Cuba is a country which has no personal freedom, political freedom. Cuba is a country that has a large number of political prisoners.
Yes.
And I think it's a country with a very poor human rights record. So I don't have any sympathy for the regime there.
Do you know any secrets that you can't tell anyone?
Well,
we won't tell anyone.
I was the minister responsible.
Do you know stuff like, George Bush had that person secretly killed, but, by Skull and Bones or whatever, but you just can't say it?
Well, obviously not something like that, but I do. I was the minister responsible for the Australian Secret Intelligence Service, so obviously I know all about how that works. And they are secrets that you take to your grave with you. I don't share those sorts of things even with my family.
Wow, that's very exciting. Maybe I'll take you out and get you drunk one night.
Well, it's something about... the listeners might be interested to know there's something about intelligence, intelligence services and the like, that we get an image from James Bond films and so on, but in truth there's something remarkably prosaic about them, really.
Of course you would say that, wouldn't you?
Yes. Well, at least I might, but on the other hand, I do know an awful lot about it, and most people don't.
Now, aren't you becoming part of some lobby group called the Bespoke Approach?
Yeah, it's not a lobby group, it's a business consultancy, so that's up and running now, and I work with the former Labor Cabinet Minister, Nick Bolkus, and a sort of long-term consultant, a man called Ian Smith, and what we do is we do work for individual companies in all sorts of different ways. In my case, I focus on helping them internationally and helping international companies understand policies and the like here in Australia. And Nick Bolkus, as you can imagine, is very close to the federal Labor government and the state Labor governments around Australia.
So, if you want to change policy,
he's the businessman.
If you want to change government policy, is it easier to hire Bespoke Approach or to protest?
Well, I don't think so much changing government policy, but understanding how to deal not only with governments but with the broader community. Do protests change government policy? It depends who organises the protests, actually. It depends who's protesting.
The Chaser was good at it. Well, they were good.
Yes,
but I'm waiting for them to change World Youth Day with the Pope.
Yes, turn up in a Pope-mobile, having turned up at APEC as Canadians. I know we were meant to be outraged
now it's getting boring, Bob. We should have wrapped it up.
Rather amusing,
to tell you the
honest truth. It wasn't the greatest demonstration of Australian security at work, but it was pretty amusing. Look, I'm not sure that protests... one protest isn't going to change government policy. You'd have to work out a long-term protest strategy, and it does depend who protests.
I reckon the Iraq War one just deflated everyone, because it's like everyone was like, oh my God, surely if hundreds of thousands of us get out there in the street, and everyone all over the world was doing it, and then it just didn't work. So everyone kind of... it didn't in that case, but on the other hand, I'll give you an example recently of a protest. Was just last Sunday. There was a protest down in Galway, which is in my electorate, and there were hundreds of people there protesting about the lack of water in the River Murray, and in particular in the lower lakes of the River Murray. That kind of a protest, and the sort of people who participated in that protest, they weren't what you would call political activists. They were just local people, local business people, farmers, trade unionists and so on. They were out there protesting, a very big protest. That sort of protest can have quite an effect, in my view, on governments. So it sounds like you're saying that it's like how you dress to the protest. So if you dress up as sort of a hippie, you're not going to listen to them. But if you're in a business suit, you will.
But if you take any more helium,
it's not as simple as that.
Won't have to worry about that.
A notion of a notion there that's worth reflecting on, but it's more political activists.
Pinko leftists.
Sort of well-known organisations which are... they're mainly left. They're not all left, but they are mainly left. Political activists tend, if you're a politician, just to make you think, well, there they go again. Whereas if they're more part of the mainstream of society, they're not people who are political activists, but people who are genuinely very concerned about some specific issue, not just ranting on for the sake of, trying to bring down the capitalist system or impose some religious rights on society or whatever it may be. You're more likely to listen to them, I think.
We've got to go. We could talk all night. Alexander Downer, thanks so much for making yourself available for this interview on Triple J.
Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure.
The Wombats with Lost in the Post. Triple J on...
my head. That was an
Safran.
epic fail of an idea.
Well, you've had 4 balloons out of
I know,
6.
but I only got about 4 sentences out. I didn't know when to
Well, it takes time to get the helium out of the balloon.
Sorry, dear listeners, we won't do the
It's
helium director's commentary anymore.
It's Art Nouveau.
Hey, Bob.
What?
What was up with the that thing where someone was dressing up as Jesus and carrying around a cross around
Oh, that was... I didn't
Stations
like that.
of the Cross? Your Passions
Mel
play.
Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson.
What about the cross? Looked like they'd bought it from David Jones
Yes, I know.
next to the
No.
stainless steel
It's
refrigerators.
embarrassing.
Is that how the cross was back in the old days?
How would I know? I wasn't back in the old days, was I? All I know, it was done in a rubbish tip. It wasn't done in a beautiful setting. I'm not going to go into it.
In the olden days when it was done, in year 0, Bob, were there tons of people waiting on the sidelines taking photos of the soon-to-be crucified Christ with their Nokia mobile phone cameras?
No, there were tons of people hanging around waiting for something exciting to happen, and that's the end of it. What did you didn't watch? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched it. I enjoyed it because I knew how much you would not be enjoying it because the whole, the flag flying. Why do they roll dice? Can you tell me what the dice rolling thing is? Why the guys who were dressed up as Marvin Martian from the Warner Brothers cartoons, what are they, the Centurions?
Yeah.
Why are they rolling dice?
Allegedly, in the script, it says, and they cast dice for his clothes. So the boy who won the toss of the dice ended up with his pants.
Seeing they updated the other thing, how the cross was all, what do you call that? Pneumatic or whatever.
Yeah, all of that.
And sort of, why didn't they update
And the bloke
that?
himself was
Why didn't they
hanging from
update that? Why didn't the 2 soldiers play Scrabulous?
Exactly.
And then the winner of Scrabulous would have got his clothes.
And it's 30,000 games now start every hour, not counting the online version, John.
What's this segue? What are you talking about?
Scrabble. We've got people in their early 20s who memorise all the words in the book. They tend to be male. Do you know all the words in the book?
No, I don't know all the words in the book.
Huh?
I do know Zooid, though. Z-O-O-I-D. I don't know what it means, but it's very handy. Hey, the other big event, in fact bigger than the Christ...
Yeah, Beijing Games.
No, was the release of The Dark Knight.
I was wondering, did you see?
I did see The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'll have to see The Dark Knight.
I was thinking...
The Dark Knight says that, in fact, he is the mirror image of Batman.
I was always confused by Batman because there was the Riddler and there was the Joker, and I didn't think there was enough of a distinction between riddles and jokes to justify a different character. Why don't you have the punner as well?
What did you think, John?
I thought now that because of
He's
Heath,
dead.
for the next one, the villain could be you.
Oh.
You could either, because you'd work well as the Penguin, but even if you could be like a new character, you could be the priest, where what you do is you sprinkle holy water on it, but that's your thing. You sprinkle holy water, but it's acid or something.
Yes, that'd be a bit of fun, wouldn't it? Listen, this bloke here sent me an email saying I was very disappointed with Father Bob's criticism of World Youth Day and the bad example he sets for our today's confused youth. I would prefer Father Bob to be excommunicated for his comments, as he is an example of a typical Aussie bloke who shows his faith outwardly for his own glorification and not for the glorification of God. I would wish if he sets an example by going to Darfur, because I said the next World Youth Day should be held in Darfur. Go to Darfur, he said, get himself shot by Muslim Gandhari than by asking for the next World Youth Day to be held there. So there you are. Baldwin de Silva, who classifies himself as a scripture teacher. So you're not the only one who gets nasty. That's nasty, isn't it? It's nasty. I don't blame you.
They didn't quite understand it. Do you want me to...
You don't have to. You don't have to. Just that the
Westboro
kiddies
Baptist
know.
Church had something to say about
Yes, they're a
World
bit
Youth
heavy,
Day.
aren't they?
This is the American church, the God Hate Fags Church.
Very
Here's
heavy.
Their news release. WBC to picket Catholic World Youth Day, Sydney, Australia, July 20. Yes, these Roman Catholic priests, bishops, cardinals, all the way up to the Pope,
Yes, himself.
have got a lot of shameless nerve luring hundreds of
God.
kids to a sodomite island, Australia, thousands of miles away. This is the first thing they've said is that's been correct about Australia being a sodomite island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with their reputation of molesting kids. Is that Australians or just Catholics?
No, I think he means the priest.
And what kind of idiot? Escapees from the funny farm masquerading as parents will let their kids go to fantasy island of the fags masquerading as a nation called Australia. And then in big print, God hates Australia.
Yeah, for criminalising gospel preaching about fags. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there
Well,
we
you don't know what you think. There's
Well, I
two
hope
sides to this thing that possibly they're
No,
right.
but look, you know what I'm like. I don't mind these people saying these things. I just am nervous that, in fact, some people take it on board as being the way Christians are. And it's not the way Christians are in the main. It's the lunatic fringe. That's all I'm saying. But then again, the Roman Catholics put on a show over the last few days that may well give the impression that we're the lunatic fringe. Anyway, it's very subdued. But it's real old-fashioned, that World Youth Day stuff.
I liked the passion play. It was like Mel Brooks or
I
something.
know it was like Mel Brooks or Mel Gibson.
No, Mel Brooks.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Oh, yeah, I really thought... I'm not being rude. I'm being honest here.
Yes.
I was instinctivly...
Revolted?
I thought it was pretty
joke?
amusing. Yes.
Was it a joke?
Well,
Was
no,
it
I didn't.
badly
I wasn't.
produced?
No, I wasn't. Well, not like I'm not making fun
No.
of your saviour. I'm just saying it seemed like
No, I'm
almost
not-
like
no,
some
that's all right. Don't-
parody of what would happen if Christ was
Yeah, but it's got
crucified
nothing to do
today.
with Jesus.
Like they were having like live crosses to journalists
Yeah,
along the way of
yes,
his crucifixion.
Yes, all of that.
And then I'm not. His acting. You know, I'm not sure he was quite.
No, the
Heath
poor
Ledger.
Kid. Yeah, the poor kid.
He kept because he peaked too early. He did the whole
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
within like the first minute.
All right.
And then there had to be like 45 more minutes of him being dragged along, and he had nowhere to go. He'd already like pitched himself so high
Yeah.
within the first
Yeah.
minute. So then it's like 25 minutes. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah,
did I mention it?
No, you can't do it. You can't do it. Anyway, with respect to all the devotional Catholics around the traps. Anyway, it's all over now. And the show at the racecourse yesterday with that big glass thing.
No, what are you talking about?
That they were all there yesterday.
What's that
Saturday
big glass
night,
thing?
big
Yeah, but-
glass thing. It was on the altar, and this is my point. The name that's given to that thing, you see, is an in-house name. It's called monstrance. Now
That's
that
a
sounds
Catholic
absolutely
word.
yeah, it's a Catholic thing in-house
Yes.
jargon. It means a thing that you show something out of. Now, there is all this clerical mob up there with this massive thing that looks it comes from the extras, the what do you call costume room, and the vestments and every smoke and everything. Look, I really think that we've overdone. Anyway, it's gone now. Madrid, here they come.
Now, very soon, we're going to be talking to a Miami Cuban who heard the podcast and is not happy.
He was happy with us.
Well, happy with us, but not happy with the general...
No.
He wants it to give the other side of the story. And I'm going to go off and try to get rid of this helium balloon headache.
Yeah, have you got a headache now?
I don't know.
I told you I wouldn't take it myself. See how it is, age?
There was
is
a warning.
smart.
There was this film called, I think, maybe Parenthood. It was a Steve Martin film.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was some other... And they take helium through it. And then at the end, when the credits are rolling, they have a warning not to inhale helium.
Oh,
like
good.
in the film.
But you were trying to seduce me into
I'd
it.
forgotten about that.
Oh, good. Just come to you now. Well, the rest of the program be hosted by the Reverend Maguire. As New rules for boats with skips on my record, John. Triple J on Sunday Night Safran.
Joining us from Miami, we have an expert in all things Cuba as a counterpoint to Joan Coxedge from the Australian Cuban Friendship Society. The interview last week, Henry Luiz Gomez. How are you?
Very well, very well. I just got back from my meeting with my fellow terrorists.
Oh, you heard, yes. Joan thinks that Miami Cubans are terrorists.
Well, let
That's
me
probably
tell
a
you
good
that.
place to start the interview.
Yeah, let me tell you that there's 1.5 million people of Cuban origin in the United States. About half of them live in the Miami area. You'd have to suspend disbelief to agree with her point of view that Miami Cubans are terrorists. I mean, you're talking about 725,000 people. I hardly think that they're... And you'd also have to think that all of the 25,000 that come annually on the visa lottery from Cuba to the United States legally, and all the people that try to escape Cuba, they're all terrorists too, as well, of course.
Now, she seemed to think that the Cuban system was a better system than the systems we have in the West, and that, therefore, people like you are just troublemakers.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Cuba had a population of 6 million in 1959 when Fidel Castro took over. And as I said today, there's 1.5 million Cubans living in the U.S. It's estimated there's 2 million Cubans living around the world. And honestly, in many countries, including Australia, there are Cubans succeeding and living better lives. It seems the only place Cubans are not allowed or permitted to succeed is in Cuba.
Now, how long were you there before you left?
Actually, I was born in the United States. My father left at age 20, and my mother was 17.
And why? What did they have to say? Did they have anything good to say about Cuba?
Well, they never believed they'd ever have to leave Cuba when they were growing up. My parents' story is very similar to many other Cubans, and that is that they left the country they knew and grew up in, and started again only with the knowledge in their heads and the clothes on their back, because they weren't permitted to take anything else. And coming to a country like the United States, where they didn't even speak the primary language, it was definitely a difficult challenge. But their story is no different than any of the other Cubans that have left Cuba basically seeking freedom. My parents both left, and my father left in 1961. My mother left in 1962, and the reason was Cuba was changing, and it was changing for the worse.
And so, is there anyone in Cuba? Is there like people who just think, no, this is a better system? We like living here. Are there a significant amount of people like that?
There's no doubt that some people in Cuba are comfortable with the system the way it is. I'd say most of those people are somehow bureaucrats in the regime, or have some sort of position of authority within the regime. A good friend of mine who grew up in Cuba and came in 1994, he calls them the 5%ers. But that's the thing. There's no way of knowing. There's no political polls in Cuba. There's no free elections. There's no political parties.
Joan said there were elections, just not for Mr. Castro. But on like lower levels, there were elections.
There's no multi-party democratic elections. Every candidate that is in an office in Cuba runs unopposed. It's a slate of candidates that's put up by the Communist Party, which is the only party that is permitted constitutionally to exist. So the only option that Cubans have, and it's hard to know how many of them exercise that option, is that they turn in a blank ballot as a form of protest. But that's nothing that would ever get reported. Of course, the media in Cuba is completely controlled by the state. There's no independent media in Cuba. There's independent journalists that try to get their dispatches out to the rest of the world, and in 2003, Fidel Castro rounded up about 75 of them from around the island and has sentenced them to sentences of up to 25 years, because those activities are considered dangerous to the revolution.
Are there any young people of a Cuban origin in America who, maybe they weren't even born in Cuba, who somehow are getting romantic about feeling some ethnic pride, like based on stories they've heard or on myths or anything like that?
Well, certainly I'm part of that, I guess second generation or first generation born in the United States. One of the interesting phenomenon that I've noticed is when you grow up in Miami, which is very heavily influenced by Cubans, you don't see yourself as different or it's just kind of the way it is. But then when you go, in my case, I went away to college at the University of Florida, which is about a 5-hour drive from Miami, and there's people from all over the state, and it's the proportion of Cuban Americans there is much less than in a place like Miami. You realize your differentness, or as we call it in Spanish, your cubanía, your Cubanness. And that's where, honestly, I was first confronted with people that were, peddling the myths that Mrs. Coxedge or Miss Coxedge was peddling on your airwaves. That was my first encounter with it was in college. And so for a lot of us, and the blog, our blog, Babalu blog, we're mostly younger people, all under the age of 40. And we all kind of had similar experiences where we had a Cuban awakening. And, I've never been to Cuba. I would love to go to Cuba. My life's ambition and dream is to go to Cuba. And someday my hope is that I will go to Cuba and help build up the industry that I'm familiar with, which is I work in the advertising and communications business. And that's a business that obviously needs to be built up from the ground up.
Now, Bob, come on.
No,
aren't you? You're like pro-Fidel. Come on,
I'm the Catholics. I'm not pro-Fidel at all.
I'm curious about that because I've done a little research into you fellows, and I understand that Father Bob is a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
I was educated by Jesuits at the school. By the way, the school Fidel Castro was educated at was a Jesuit school. When he came to power, he expropriated the school, nationalized it. It's now a military academy, and he expelled the Jesuits from Cuba. And those Jesuits began the same school in Miami, and that's the school that I graduated from. So I'm a fellow alumnus of Belen Jesuit with Fidel Castro. But my question is how a Catholic priest could be so enamored with the idea of a communist state that banned Christmas, that was officially an atheist state, that has repressed all types of religious expression. The Jewish community in Cuba is there was a once vibrant Jewish community in Cuba that doesn't exist anymore because they've all left. So I find it hard to understand, literally hundreds of young Cubans died at the firing squad wall screaming, "Long live Christ the King." I don't know where the sympathy for this monster comes from.
Where do you get the idea that I'm sympathetic to Castro?
I don't know. My understanding is that you'd like to rib Mr. Safran about...
but that's the Aussie way. See, the Aussie way is we don't take either side seriously.
That's not true.
Yes,
that's not true.
yes.
Bob, you have occasionally
Henry Luiz is saying that, in fact, because that you do with this ribbing, it means that, in fact, you're on one side or the other. I'm not, because half the Roman Catholic population is Roman Catholic in Cuba. 50%, at least. 60%.
But there's very little Catholicism is practiced very little in Cuba because it was repressed. Being active in the thing is, in a regime like Cuba, everything is based upon how integrated, that's the word they use, integrated into the revolution you are. So the act of being a practicing Catholic or being practicing any religion for many, many years, we're talking for 35, 40 years of the Cuban Revolution, it was considered anti-revolutionary or potentially counter-revolutionary. So certain privileges that would be given to upright revolutionaries were not given. So there's overt ways and subtle ways that they discourage the practice of religion in Cuba, and honestly, what you have today, unfortunately, is a population that's not very spiritual at all. Although there has been somewhat of a religious awakening in Cuba in the last 10 years since the Pope visited the island, and there's been somewhat a relief on that repression.
That's all I'm saying, Henry, that if it's good enough for the Pope to deal with them, well, it's good enough for me to entertain in my head the possibility that, in fact, good will come out of what you consider to be bad. Anyway, we're very grateful to you, Henry, and keep up the good work. And we've been listening to on the Safran Show on Triple J.
Thank you very much,
so
Henry.
much.
I'm not going to teach your boyfriend how to dance with you. Black kids, that was. Safran on Sunday on Triple J. He's a fascist,
Pastor?
probably. That bloke was a fascist.
Don't say that. He's not a fascist. He's going to listen to the
He
podcast.
called me a commo.
Henry, you can come back on again and you can have another fight with Bob. Why didn't you have a fight with him on air? You can't have like...
He didn't time. You just said wind him up.
Bob, he was up for a fight with you, and
Yeah.
then you weaseled out of it. You can't then
I didn't
come
know
back
until
and then when
he
he's not
used
here.
that catchphrase, Christ the King, is a dead giveaway to poor blokes in the church like me. Because that's the catchphrase that declares that a person tends to be on the side of imperialism.
Well, is there a difference between being
Yeah.
on the side of imperialism
Yeah.
and being a fascist or not?
No.
Okay, cool. Henry, you can come back on and have
fascist
another
is a
second fight with Bob.
Respectable term. Yeah, I'm as a churchman, I'm here, not as a bloody political commentator, for God's sake, but you've
Bob,
got
has
me into
this-
the position, you know, where Cuba is, in fact, a Catholic Latin American country.
Suspects in illegal snake bust. Has this got anything to do with you? The pastor of a Kentucky church that handles snakes and religious rites was amongst 10 people arrested by wildlife officers in a crackdown on the venomous snake trade.
Oh, there we go. I thought that was that American sect who, in fact, told us on the air.
The
they
Shakers?
didn't. Yep.
No, it's not
Oh,
the
for
Shakers.
snakes.
I think it's the
Who are the snake handlers?
Appalachian. Well, you know, it's just around those
See, they
areas.
go stomping around their churches and they start handling deadly snakes because the scripture does, in fact, say, allegedly, that you shall handle deadly snakes, steaks, and they won't hurt you. See? Yeah.
And that, yes, and that it's meant to prove a miracle.
Or drink poisonous drink and it won't hurt you.
Now, did you hear about the homeless people being removed? 130 homeless people have been removed from Sydney during World Youth Day
Well, that's
celebration.
what they said. Now, is it true or false? How can we find the truth in this matter? Because some pious little Roman Catholics will say, no, 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 it was not done. You see what I mean? These days you've got spin, spin, spin. Nothing bad came out of World Youth Day, and if you say it did, well, then you are pinko leftist. Anyway, it's over.
Did you hear Reverend Moon? I'm just going to keep throwing
He
news
hurt
stories on
himself
you.
in an aeroplane.
In a helicopter.
helicopter?
Yes.
Yeah, is he dead?
No. Reverend Moon from the Moonies.
The Moonies? Or the Restoration Church? No, what's it called? The
I
Reunification
think it's
Church.
Unification.
Unification Church.
Are they like nominally? Do they think they're Christian? They think they're
I think they are. They're
and they think he's some sort of incarnation
well,
of
a friend
the
of
Messiah.
mine, Archbishop, what's his name, from South Africa, from Africa, joined up with them after he got a clobbering in Rome. Malingo is his name. He went and he allegedly got married in the unification.
I think it's good for that. I think if you're like, if you got social problems where you don't have the social skills to find your own partner, when you join the Unification Church,
they get one for you.
Yeah, you get hooked up pretty quickly.
But then this, I haven't heard from
And all you have to do is pretend that the Reverend Moon is the incarnation of Christ.
Well, he's the incarnation of the fallen angel just now if he fell out of the air in a helicopter.
And then, of course, the interesting thing about the Moonies is they own the second most influential paper in Washington.
Which?
There's like I get them confused. It's like the Times, the Washington Times and the Washington Post. And he owns the less popular one.
Yes.
But because it's still influential, you have all the American politicians like turning up to ceremonies where they're venerating Reverend Moon as the Messiah, and everyone thinks, oh, that's a bit odd. Did you hear it? Speaking of Batman, I did not know this was, but there's a new Frank Miller Batman graphic novel coming out this year, Holy Terror Batman, and Batman takes on Al Qaeda. Are they allowed to do that? I don't know what the Batman rules are, like with fiction versus real things. I guess he takes on the mob, and that's real, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone who knows about Batman. Oh, there's the other thing I want to know. If you know about Batman, can you go to the guest book, triplej.net.au/Safran? Is Chris Nolan, the director of Dark Knight, was his next one? Is he allowed to just invent a new character out of nowhere? Or does he have to, go to the source material? What's the Batman film rule? Can he just have, Batman versus Avocado Man next film? Or does he have to, go
Stick to a prearranged
and
text.
then which ones? Because then there's these ones that I think were like in the TV show, like Egghead, that weren't never in the comics. So it's like Chris Nolan allowed to have Egghead.
Well, who decides? What are you talking about? I mean, is it like Wikipedia that the readers can, in fact, make up their minds who they want in the next episode?
I don't know. I just want to know what
That's
the
the democracy.
I want to know what the general rules are.
I don't know if there are any general rules, are they? In fact, when did that... that was an original comic. When? 1900 and what?
I think.
Did you have
40s?
the original? 40s, was it?
Yeah,
Did the Jews invent Batman?
I think so.
Did they?
Why not?
Well, I don't know.
You know,
What about Iron Man? Did you see Iron Man?
yeah, it was okay.
No good?
Not as
That was
good as
supposed to be a new... What about the latest one with that
you remember when-
Afro-American man in it, Smith,
Will Smith.
when he plays the part of an anti-hero? Or
yeah. What do you want to know
I
from
want
me?
to know whether... Did you see it?
No.
All right.
Why is this so boring?
Well, where's a good
I'm looking
idea?
at I'm looking at my list of things to
Yeah,
try to think
boring
what's going to be.
things.
No, what's going to be a more interesting. I've got a few things I could go through, and I'm rolling my dice here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I want to talk
What
about.
do you want to talk about?
I heard there's a guy who I'm not going to give any information about him, right? Because it's very delicate, right? I'm not going to say what station, nothing, no information. All I'm going to say is it's a him, and that's it. And he does talk back radio, right? Mm-hmm. And I happen to know, because I just know, that he's gay. But his audience doesn't know he's gay. Not that, but it's not a big deal either way. But it's sometimes amusing to listen to like talk back, because people talk to him and they bring up things where it's like insinuated that he's like got a wife or something, and he kind of like dodge. And anyway, so this has been going on for years, right? But then I was listening the other week, and he's sailing pretty close to the wind. I mean, which is fine if he was like.
What do you mean, in coming out?
Yes, which would be fine if he was coming out, but I assume he's not coming out, because he started talking. They were having talk back about house cleaning and who does the house cleaning.
Yes.
And he used like when you use the expression instead of him and her, you go, anyway, the way we do it at my house is they do the dishes.
That's
and then
right.
I do. And so he was doing the whole they thing. I'm going, man, you're sailing pretty close, and the listeners are all thinking he's talking about his... With
wife.
With absence of any other
partner,
information,
I mean.
yes.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter to me. I
No,
just
but
think
does
if
it matter in the world?
No.
Whether you're... I don't like that word gay. I never have.
Why not?
I don't know why, because it seems to trivialise what appears to be a respectable social status. See? We're a funny mob, us. You know? I mean, that other girl from wherever it is, that Baptist church who takes it so, is she serious or a joke?
She's serious.
Is she?
Yes.
They're definitely and absolutely. I mean, it's not a comedy show
No.
on CNN.
No.
No, I can't understand it. Can't understand. And mind you, World Youth Day, not much was mentioned World Youth Day about same-sex attracted persons. And we're supposed to be the world's greatest persecutors of homosexuals. Nothing mentioned at all, thank God. Anyway, be that as it may, boring, and it's all over now, and he's gone. At Madrid, here they come.
We'll talk more after this.
Niles Barkley with Going On Sunday Night Safran on Triple J. Did I say Triple J? Triple J.
Yes.
Well, they are tippling the kiddies, probably, aren't they?
I'm high on...
Is that old-fashioned, like that Bishop's comment about... what did he say, that Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so were what? He used a real old-fashioned word about being not happy with no comment being made about their... Anyway, bear that, go on.
My cousin went to a restaurant and, they said that they rang up and said, 14 people are coming along. And then it ended up only 12 came along. And then they're sitting there and the restaurant's getting the guys going, well, you're going to have to pay for a meal for these other two people.
Yeah.
And then started getting really, shirty. And I was thinking, that's weird. I thought, just the power dynamic in that situation would be with the customers, regardless of whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm confused about where the power dynamic is, because once I had to go to this bank, this guy who was, directing this thing I was doing, he said, John, come to the bank. We've got to open up a bank account for the new project. So we went into the bank, and then we had a meet, and then we sat down, and the banker was on the other side, and he was like, so what's this project all about?
See?
And I started telling, and then I was like confused. I was like whether we were pitching for his business or he was pitching for our business. I didn't care which way it was. I just didn't understand.
No. Yeah, I understand what you mean, because if you go begging or asking for a loan that should be a business,
we weren't even asking for a loan. We're just trying to open up a bank account. It was very confusing.
Yeah, well, that's
but it was like positioning it like, well, you know, he can make or break me.
What you end up doing?
Well, just, you know, I think he just...
Go to another bank?
No.
Where they wouldn't ask questions?
No, I didn't want to fight.
No.
You know, I found out I'm a good person this week.
Yeah, what you do?
That I am, in fact, an inadvertent environmentalist. Like, I do environmental things. I don't have the emotion. Like, I don't care that I'm environmentally good. Because I've always suspected it. Like, I get the train a lot and stuff. But none of it's got to do with me caring about the environment or with anybody else or the world or the future or my grandchildren. Like, I just couldn't care. It's all totally... That makes it easier for me to catch the train.
Yeah, they're called trivial morals.
Yes. So then it becomes a matter of, am I a good person or not if I'm inadvertently doing it? But this is why I know for sure. I have to take the car in to get a service, even though it hasn't gone up to the right, you know, you have to do every 10,000. It hasn't gone up to the right mileage because it's been so long for it going in for a checkup, even though it hasn't gone up to that mileage, because I just don't drive it at all. So I am definitely, I can prove I'm an inadvertent environmentalist, even though I don't care about the environment.
And you can show the car mileage on the meter as proof.
As proof.
Yeah.
Because I told you that time that guy from Greenpeace was hassling me, was sitting on a train, and he said, he goes, "Oh, you're John Safran, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I heard you're having a go, you know, at something like Greenpeace or whatever." And I'm thinking, listen, a-hole, like, you're in Greenpeace, right? Shouldn't you be hassling someone who's catching public transport?
Yes, exactly, see. Misplaced passion.
Now, your people, the Christians, are being accused of sneakily trying to convert my people. Front page of Jewish
Oh,
News.
no. Oh, no. What's it say? Read it.
Well, we've talked about the group. We've even had a guy on from the Messianic Jews.
Oh, we've had him on.
They're the ones, dear listener.
Mendelssohn.
Yes,
What's his name?
Ben, no.
No. Is it Mendelssohn?
He's that guy, the Australian
I don't
actor. Yeah, he's Mendelssohn, but not Ben Mendelssohn.
Oh, John, I can't stand it. I'm worn out. What's it say? Go on.
Well, this group, dear listeners, who... This is what their critics say. They say that what they are is just Christians, and they try to convert Jews, but what they do is they say that they are Messianic Jews. So it's like, oh, we're Jewish, we just happen to believe in Jesus. And when it says the Messiah in the Jewish Bible, that means Jesus. So we're not Christians trying to get you to become Christian. We're Jews trying to get you to accept Jesus.
Look, I'd like to apologise on behalf of the International Roman Catholic Church.
And this is why it's on the front page. Angry family members have approached Jewish Care, which is like an old people's nursing home or whatever, over the presence of Messianic Jews serving as volunteers at the nursing home. A woman recently confronted one of these Messianic Jews when she saw her painting the fingernails of an elderly relative at the facility. I am appalled that this was allowed to happen. So they're saying, this is their critics are saying they've sneakily volunteered at this nursing home with Jewish people to try to, in their moments of vulnerability, to get them to accept Jesus.
When they're painting the fingernail, not the painting of fingernails is kosher?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right.
But while the guard is down. The guard is down.
Then we're inferring,
this person's
by the way, did you happen to see the Stations of the Cross, Mrs. Steen, on the television?
Yes.
And didn't you think that it was sad what they did, Mrs.
McGillicuddy Steen? Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't like all that, you see. This is Bobby Waffle. I can't see why we can't leave each other alone and have religious... No, what do you call it? Religious civility.
Yes.
See? Don't need to get recruits.
Hey, we're going to talk to an internet censorship expert.
Yes, we
Irene Graham.
Yes.
Next.
The Eagle by the Red Sun Bank. We can't mention that correspondent. who's imprisoned in, where's that, Malaysia?
Singapore, I think.
Is it Singapore?
Yes.
Because I'm just wondering, another conspiracy theory. No, we can't mention it because it's...
No, you can mention if you want.
I don't know if you can mention it because I'm nervous, you see, conspiracy theory. Whether, in fact, because he did investigative journalism
Yes.
of the Asia-Pacific regions. And also he's come out, I believe, as an homosexual.
Who's a homosexual in the paper?
The man, the foreign correspondent.
Okay.
Not the Prime Minister of Singapore, I didn't say that.
No.
But I'm just nervous that, in fact, from those two counts, his conspiracy theory could be that, in fact, he's being unduly, unjustly dealt with because of those two unpalatable locally circumstances. That's all.
Thank you for that, Father Bob.
Thank
Joining
you.
us
That's the foreign correspondent, Reverend R.J. Maguire.
Joining us from a booth in Brisbane, Irene Graham, censorship expert. How are you?
Good, John. How are you?
Now, are there particular things about Australia that we have to worry about internet censorship that doesn't necessarily have to be worried about worldwide?
I don't think there's anything really in particular in Australia. It's just that Australia has already got one of the most restrictive internet censorship regimes in the world.
How so?
Well, Australia's the only country only Western democratic country anyway, that has already banned material that online that is illegal for adults to view offline. Like, for example, in 2000 they introduced internet censorship laws, and now if you put material on an Australian website that's classified R18, suitable for adults only, like movies that you can go and see at the cinema.
Like Salo.
Well, they're not allowed to be on Australian websites.
And how much does that have to be a concern when it seems to be easy to dodge around it and just put things up on American websites and
exactly?
And view American
websites? It's completely ineffective. But the problem is that it puts any Australian content like that goes offshore. So Australians are paying overseas web hosts and things to, put that material online for them. And there's one view that really it would be better if Australian web hosts could receive money for hosting such material instead of just pushing it all offshore.
Now, do you think the web can go anywhere in the future that it hasn't been already? In so much as, if pretty much it seems like you can get away with anything on the net and there's ways to dodge around things now if you really want to get something out there or you really want to view something, that we don't have to worry about the future? Or do you think the net could change and new laws could come in that could affect what we see?
I think the issue really is that I don't think that it can change in terms of you won't still be able to access things. It is impossible to block information on the internet. You can establish a system that is blocking, but I think that there will always be ways around it. The aspect of it that concerns me, like with the current government's plans to bring in mandatory ISP blocking, is that although they say that will be opt-out for adults, that's what they're saying anyway, you will have to phone up your ISP or email your ISP or whatever to say that you want to opt out. And in my opinion, that's privacy invasive. I don't think you should have to ring up and say, I want to be allowed to look at adult material on the internet. But as well as that, although you'll still be able to get around it, even if they didn't make it opt out, people could get around it. It's just making it so much hard for people to be able to access what they, want to access, that is legal to access. You have to go out of your way to sort of find proxies or set up special software on your computer to be able to bypass the blocks. And I just don't think it's a good idea to be putting these blockages in front of adults purely on the grounds that this is going to protect children, because it's not going to protect children either, because most of them are even, more technologically literate than their parents are, so they're going to find the way around the blocking as well. So what's the point of it?
It seems like if people really want things pulled down and there's the legislation to back it up, it can be pulled down even overseas. I'm thinking of how Viacom was annoyed with the Google-owned YouTube for having all their clips up, and then pretty much started legal action, and they're all pulled down. So it seems like when it wants to be done and can be backed up by legislation, it can be done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's certainly in, countries like America, Australia, England, Canada, European countries and so forth, where there's laws in place that are either to do with censorship laws or to do with copyright laws, certainly the ISPs, it appears, take the material down when they're notified about it. In some countries, they don't have quite the same laws as, in inverted commas, Western democracies. So my understanding is that there are some issues in some countries, parts of Russia, for example, where we are told that illegal material gets left online because they don't have the same laws. They don't make illegal the same material that's illegal in Australia or America. And so, it is claimed that some of these overseas countries host material and it can't be taken down. But, I even question that because I've seen reports in the media of Russians being arrested and things. So, I'm really a bit dubious about this whole claim that material can't get taken down. It seems to me whether it can get taken down or not just depends on whether the police are sufficiently interested enough to do anything about it and get the ISPs to take it down.
Let me ask an elderly question. And that is the taking down business I can understand. But, I mean, is there any way of controlling what goes up? You know what I mean?
No, not really. And even... sorry?
Is there not? I mean, I'm illiterate, to a great extent. But is there no way of stopping...
Are you asking in terms of technologically, is it possible from putting it up? Yeah. No, because, there's always been websites, ordinary websites. And to put material on a website, there's basically two ways. You either pay an ISP or a web hosting company for space on their server, and you get a password to log in and put the material up on the.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but sorry to interrupt you, but I think just to sum up, Bob.
Yes.
No, there's no way to stop it.
Oh.
Also, there's peer-to-peer hosting more recently, which is making it even harder because peer-to-peer hosting is on an individual's computer. There's not even an ISP involved.
Do you think the big problem with the net is more not censorship but the opposite of censorship, in that people are just going to rue the day that they've put things up there because there's been no filters whatsoever, no editors, and things are up there forever and infinity? Things that they...
you mean they might wish they hadn't put it there?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It seems like if you have the ledger of what's the problem with the internet, it seems like censorship is a little bit of a problem, and the opposite of censorship is a huge problem, such as cyberbullying, such as putting things up that people don't want, such as putting things up yourself that you then want to pull down, and on it goes.
Yeah, John, I think that's right. I think that there's, in the media and so forth, you hear a huge focus on the censorship side of it, but there is also this side of it that people don't, I think a lot of people just don't stop to think that you put something up and although you might think you can take it down, you might find that someone else has taken a copy of it and they've put it on another website or whatever. And if you want to kind of wipe out a bit of your past because you've changed your mind about an issue or whatever, you might find that information just, it's out of your control.
There was this academic in America called Norman Finkelstein who got kicked out of his university, for being a dissident, and his enemies call him a racist and stuff, and he says he's not a racist, and he says the internet has totally killed his chance of getting a job, not because of censorship. He can go to the internet and put up whatever he wants, but the problem is, when a university decides whether, when you go in and put in your application, they type your name into Google, and the first, 7 pages are all Norman Finkelstein's a racist, he's just not going to get a job. So again, it's this thing that the internet's not a problem because of censorship; it's a problem for him because of the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I've heard that, employers in Australia are doing that as well. The first thing they do is go and type someone's name into Google. I think that, we're getting to a point where people like employers and so forth, anybody for that, anybody, is perhaps going to have to start to, themselves come to terms with the fact that people grow up, they change their views and things, and just because something's been put on the internet, a decade ago, doesn't necessarily mean that person still thinks that, or, I think we might need to be looking at the whole culture kind of differently and not sort of victimising people because of what they did years ago. I mean, just think of teenagers now. We're hearing on the radio stuff about not on the radio, sorry, in the newspapers, stuff about allegedly some teenagers are putting nude pictures of themselves on Facebook or wherever. Kids will be kids. Do we really want a situation where, for the rest of their lives they're discriminated against because they did something silly when they were 15?
Irene, we've got to go. We could talk all night, but thanks so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hide your face.
Little Barry with long hair, John, on Triple J, Sunday Night Safran.
They say, Bob, that your friends, the Christian right, that they're starting to lose their traction in America.
In America?
Recently, McDonald's restaurant vice president joined the board of directors of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. So the American Family Association, like an evangelical Christian organisation, thought, hey, let's start a boycott of McDonald's because this is outrageous. And they tried and just no one cared. And people are pointing to this as some turning point in American politics where evangelical Christians no longer have the power.
Well, if your Mr Bush goes, well, then I presume that power that the evangelical right had wanes, does it not?
Yes. But, of course, my theory, if the Christian right was so powerful, how come, what's his name, Huckleberry?
Yes.
Huckleby?
Yes, Huckabee.
Not Huckleberry.
No,
Huckabee.
Huckabee.
How come him, a former Baptist minister?
Yes, didn't get up?
Didn't get up.
No.
Mormon make missionary position clearer. The creator of a calendar featuring buff Mormon missionaries has been excommunicated as punishment by local church leaders. Chad Hardy said he bore no ill will towards the Council of Elders from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint over his punishment. I felt like I spoke my truth, the 31-year-old entertainment entrepreneur said after a disciplinary meeting in Las Vegas.
His religion isn't it? It's becoming more.
Well,
and more.
Catholics are allowed to have that naked Christ everywhere.
Yes,
you don't like to hear that. You don't
know.
like to hear that there's anything erotic.
No, I know, I don't. But I mean, you'd have to face the fact. You see, we're the only ones whose logo is in fact a naked man hanging on a cross. That it's startling. And we keep bringing people. I got one hanging up in my church, was a magnificent old crucifix. But it's right in the middle of the church, and yet you don't kind of warn the kiddies when they come in for a wedding or something and say, by the way, kiddies, don't get frightened because there's a man hanging on the cross. See what I mean? Very strange, very strange. And it wasn't the original logo for us anyway, the fish was. They used to draw a fish on the ground to indicate there's a meeting on tonight down at Mrs McGillicuddy's place. The fish, not the cross. It was your Constantine who stuck the cross on.
Now, is your church trying to sucker in Anglicans who are...
who are disillusioned with the Anglican brand of Christianity because of the consecration of women bishops and because of the ordination of homosexual priests. That kind of thing.
Yes.
I suppose there's a department, is there, in Rome that's just dying. It's probably got a new bloody label up on the door or something that says this is the department for the whatever it's going to be called. Reunification of the lost British. See?
Will you welcome if some Anglican in Melbourne came to your church and said, "Can I join?"
Come in, same as tomorrow. But I couldn't do it because the bosses say that he'd have to go through the process. Look, it's all too complicated. I see. As soon as you start talking about this, in practice, it's too complicated. In principle, it's beautiful.
We'll talk more after this.
Airport tags by British India, John, Triple J, Sunday Night Safran.
Saw this Oriental gentleman, young man, wearing a T-shirt that said, "I love," like with the heart, music.
It's nice.
I thought too vague. Like, who doesn't? You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. Generic.
It's like saying I love events.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like it's just too broad.
It's too broad.
You should at least narrow it down to some really broad genre, like metal.
Yes. You won't let him get away with that?
No.
Did you put him up in the street?
No.
Too generic? Get that off. That's, what do you call it? Annoying me.
Yes, it's annoying me.
An annoying T-shirt.
The new annoying legislation that was briefly
You're
here.
going to be one of the thought police who go around ripping T-shirts off people because they're not specific enough. Oh, that's interesting. Whole new game for you. Who will you go dressed as?
Who the hell doesn't like? I was trying to think. I was going, could you wear that T-shirt around and it be sort of that's making a point. It's the only people are the Taliban because they're against music. So if you wore it like around there in Afghanistan or whatever, maybe it'd be of interest. Of like,
yes,
it's interesting. You're making a point that you love music.
Yes. Maybe
but I think even them, I looked into the Taliban. I think they've got some exceptions. So even there's this whole thing about how you're allowed to, like, pluck on an urhu or something like that, or beat on it. So even the Taliban, love music. Yeah.
Well, we're going to hear lots of lovely music now, including with the beatbox.
With the Muslim Brotherhood coming in.
Yeah. What musical instrument did you play?
When I was in Raspberry Cordial, nothing human, just lyrics.
What did you
MC? I was MC. I was singer.
Did you ever take up a musical instrument?
Well, trumpet in year 7. In year 7, trumpet.
Yes.
But I wasn't that good at it.
Weren't you? Why didn't you persist with it?
I don't know.
Then we could have
spoiled.
brighten up our miserable eyes. What do you mean spoiled?
Like I was like, no, I don't want to play it like that. I was
when did you drop it?
I just dropped it. There was no. If you want to know, like a really boring story.
Yeah.
So then I went to yeshiva and there was no trumpet at yeshiva. So there you go.
That was the end of it.
Yeah, that's the end of the story.
So
I'm sure the listeners are fascinated.
You didn't throw a tantrum or something and insist that they bring in a trumpet.
But it's like I could have continued. Like it just doesn't matter.
Well, it matters to me, John, because I'm taking an interest in you and wondering what it would have been like at this age if you, in fact, one of Australia's leading trumpeters. You see what I mean? To take over the little bald man.
I don't have the ear for, like, music. Everything sounds... Like, if I hear classical music, it all sounds, like, good to me. Like, that's good. I'm just impressed that they've somehow all got those people in the room together and
so you'd wear one of those T-shirts?
And, like, sometimes
I love music.
You know, like someone who's, like, a great...
saxophonist.
Compared to just a regular... I can't tell the difference. Like, you know how they go, bird, you go... And they're all sitting there going, oh, man. Like, I can't tell the difference between that saxophone and just some guy down at the Burke Street Mall.
Yeah, trying to make $1 outside of the supermarket.
It all sounds like, pretty good to me.
Yeah. Yet you're held up as one of the world's leading...
musicologists.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not on
So you've
saxophone.
heard it on this show, kiddies. This man is a fraud, cheat and liar. Now let's go to the real musicians.
After this.
Conor Oberst with Sold Out. Triple J.
Religious Song of the Week.
Joining us this week for the second time. This is the first time we've ever had a group twice for Religious Song of the Week. Last time they didn't have an album. Now they do The Brotherhood. How are you, The Brotherhood?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, good, well.
Jihad Dabab.
Yep, that's me.
Timur Bakan.
Yep.
Hasham Habiballah. And Mustafa Dabab.
Yep.
You sound like my old roll call teachers. Where they stuff up your name in roll call.
Sorry about that. Now, what are all the songs on the album Muslim?
They've got a Muslim feel to them.
Yeah, we like to consider them sort of conscious tracks. Like all the tracks on there, they're rap songs from a Muslim perspective, but it's not sort of like preaching or anything like that.
But, are you trying to get converts in any of them?
No, not really. No, not at all. No, we're just really expressing ourselves as Australian Muslims, just expressing ourselves because we grew up in this country and just really expressing how we feel through music, through art.
Now, please give us an example of one of the consciousness songs.
We've got a song called Silent Truth, for example, and that song sort of entails more of being a Muslim, having racist and prejudiced type stereotypes about us, but it doesn't just sort of identify itself with Muslims only. It's also for non-Muslims too. So it's anyone who pretty much just feels sort of standard out from sort of
marginalised, discriminated against, or anything like that.
You know, I was on another Triple J show this week talking about the Nation of Islam. Do you know about them?
Yeah,
I do actually. I watched Malcolm X last night.
Because you know they're really controversial from your perspective, not from a non-Muslim's perspective, because they label themselves as Islamic, except they believe in things that most Muslims wouldn't be into, such as Allah came down in the form of man in the 1930s and stuff.
That's right, which is totally against the teachings of Islam. We believe that God doesn't come down in the form of man or anything like that.
He has messengers.
Yeah, he has messengers, but we believe that Muhammad, after Jesus, was Muhammad, and he was the seal of the prophets. So they say that God came down in the form of man, and then Elijah Muhammad was his prophet, which is obviously against the teachings of Islam. But they call themselves Muslims, so there's that sort of confusion there.
And it's because people they kind of fudge the story just to make it simple about like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, where it's like, oh, they discovered Islam through the Nation of Islam, and then they went to Mecca, when it's really they came in through the Nation of Islam, mainly because it talked a lot about black empowerment, and they related to that. And then they met Muslims who weren't part of the Nation of Islam, who told them, hey, you know, all that stuff's like not really acceptable.
Well, Nation of Islam is doing a very, very good job for the African Americans in America, as like you said, empowerment, that sort of thing. And there's definitely nothing wrong with it they're doing today. And a lot of the teachings will actually lead them onto learning more about Islam and actually the followings of Malcolm X once he converted.
So in terms of empowerment and things like that, I think they're a good organisation in that way. But in terms of calling themselves Muslims it sort of confuses people that way, because their teachings aren't with the true sort of orthodox Islam, if you want to call it.
And I think it's like split into two now or something, where like, because the son of the main guy, who do you say, Elijah Muhammad?
Yeah,
I think the son of the main guy.
W.D. Muhammad, yeah.
Yeah, he said, oh, no, all these things are like not true to Islam.
Yeah.
So he became more conventional Islam, but then...
well, his father actually chose him out of all his sons and said, I want you to take over. And he wasn't the oldest son either.
He was the seventh.
Yeah,
because Elijah Muhammad was very superstitious.
And he actually turned around and became a practicing Muslim. And a lot of his followers and a lot of the followers actually followed him that way. And, that's where the divergence...
But another group did go off. And
his eldest son took over and is carrying on Elijah Muhammad's teachings.
And I mean, the other things like, you know, misconceptions like the white man is the devil. I mean, just because I'm the only dark-skinned person here, I don't think that, you know. But, yeah, it's common misconceptions where, I mean, 3 other guys in our group are white and white as snow sort of thing. So it's not something that we have that stereotype.
I wonder what's going to happen like in New Zealand, because I've heard that like the Nation of Islam has sort of had some impact in New Zealand where people are getting into it, like the Maoris, for the same reason, because the black empowerment reason. So I wonder where that's all going to head.
Yeah, wow, that'd be interesting.
It's an unfinished story.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing when Louis Farrakhan came here and he was speaking to the Aboriginals and all the indigenous people, and he got some type of effect from them, but they're very good motivational speakers. They know how to sort of talk, and, you know, the way they use empowerment. Yeah, it's just really... smart the way they do it.
Yeah, but Malcolm X's story is a fascinating story. I mean, it's a 3-hour movie. It's not a short movie. And I watched it last night. It's just fascinating because Malcolm X was so passionate about black supremism and you know, the white devils and all this and that. And then he went for the pilgrimage for Hajj in Mecca, and there he saw people from all different colours. And he said, you know,
blue eyes, blonde hair.
Blue eyes and blonde hair. And he said, you know, we're all brothers over there and things like that. And he came back, and his whole theory and his whole thinking just changed. And he said, I don't consider myself a racist. I'm a Muslim. I believe in Islam. And then took it from there.
And sometimes rap music's confusing with the whole Islam versus Nation of Islam, because you have, I know in the Roots, there's a member who's just conventional Islam, and then there's a member that's Nation of Islam. So you're kind of listening to it and you kind of don't quite know where they're coming from.
Yeah, there's quite a few rappers that some of them are Orthodox Islam, some of them are Nation of Islam. Like, for instance, I think Busta Rhymes and Ice Cube and they're all Nation of Islam. And I think, the way I sort of tell it apart is if they're rapping about I mean, it's not all the cases, but I find the majority of the times if they're rapping about like cars and girls and you know, gangster lifestyle and all this and that, I don't know, it's just from my experience, from what I've been listening to, they're usually Nation of Islam or 5 Percenters or something like that. But if they're rapping about more conscious stuff, like Most Def or Talib Kweli, well, he's not Muslim, but like Most Def or Lupe Fiasco, they're usually Orthodox Islam.
And generally they will say things about being black more than sort of a conventional Muslim, so...
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely Islam and not Nation of Islam. So why don't you give us your Islam song?
Cool. All right, well, this track's called, it's called Why. And basically, it just talks about the double standards and things like that of Muslims in Australia and all over the world. So I'll start it off. Clear my throat. Why must I explain myself? If something bad happens, should I blame myself? Why? These are the questions that always fill my mind. When I wake up one morning
and grow myself a beard, people start talking, getting themselves scared. Well,
Mr. Goldberg,
he lives down the block. When he grows a beard,
no one ever gets a shot.
Why? When my sister walks properly dressed, she wears a headscarf,
they think that she's oppressed.
Then you got the nuns dressed in
black and white, head to toe.
No one questions them. Why? I don't know. Why? These are the questions that always fill my mind.
Why, when something blows up on the TV, people look at me as if it was my family? Why must I always attack what they feeding you? Why you asking me? You should start reading. Am I a walking, talking encyclopedia? I think not, so turn off that media. Why is it that we argue all the time? Should be unified. Viva la Palestine. Why the Sunni Shia never adhere? Have differences, but similarities are clear. Why? Why is it so damn hard
to show your teeth? Smile when it's hard, that's what our prophet teach. Why do we visit our brother and try to preach? But when friendship comes around, we dead sound asleep. Why all my people got angry little faces? Bad energy rubs off, it's contagious. Why do people confuse Allah and God? They mean the same thing.
Yo, Allahu Akbar.
I liked your thing where you attacked his religion about the
nuns, black and white.
I thought that was a very accurate thing. The thing about the Goldberg thing, I didn't understand that.
No, I'm not attacking no religions, man.
Now, are you going to be playing anywhere ever?
Well, we've actually had 2 major events and turning points in recently in our career, I would call it. We just came back from the Mahabba Awards,
which is
from
in the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was amazing.
Surreal.
It was great. The environment, the people we met, just the experiences in general. Just being able to go overseas, to perform, and getting all the expenses paid for. So it was pretty cool.
So is that one of those really, 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 really oil-rich places where like everything's amazing and they create snow in the summertime and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. It was one of those places.
Yeah. We've also got another gig coming up that I'm organising at the moment. It's going to be up in the Factory Theatre up in Sydney. So yeah, we're just working on that at the moment. It's going to be towards the end of the year, so if there's any listeners in Sydney, look out for us coming up there. So yeah.
And we've got a few gigs here and there, like Victoria University on the 10th.
Yep, on the 10th
August.
A lot of our gigs are mainly sort of very community based. A lot of governmental gigs, a lot of benefit gigs, things like that. So a lot of festivals and things like that. So
the Brotherhood. At thebrotherhood.com.au.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very
come
much.
in again soon.
Thank you very much.
That's brother with an A.
When they turn you on, think twice. Temptation, get the feeling. Temptation, drive it home.
That is Temptations, The Brotherhood. I don't know why they get 2 songs and everyone else just gets 1. But that's how it is. Thank you very much, Alexander Downer. Thank you, Henry Luiz Gomez. Thank you, Irene Graham. Thank you, The Brotherhood. Thank you, Father Bob. Go to www.net.au/Safran and write stuff. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Triple J.
Triple J. Triple J. Woo!